This allows you to fill in the family history.
Fill in the family history.
Mm-hmm.
Grandmother remembers. Now there's some of it. Let's see. Here, I'm supposed to write, "With love for Susan," from grandmother and my name. So I wrote it down there so I'd be sure to be able to copy and not have to erase anything. George R. Smith and Louisa E. Smith. Louisa Rowley Smith. Now those were my parents. And then the grandparents.
How about your father's parents? Do you know who they were?
Yes, Samuel Smith.
Do you remember his dates offhand, or the date he was born and died, Samuel Smith?
I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't, and I don't suppose anyone would know for sure. I don't have anything on that.
Is he down in Pleasant Hill?
Let's see, did he live near Pleasant? Yes. Must have lived in the vicinity of Pleasant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too well informed. Somebody else asked me some questions. I'm not too well informed, but what I have, I'll do the best I can. Now his mother's name was Elizabeth McClary Smith. And they called her Betsy. Now that was my father's father and mother.
Would that be spelled MCCLEARY?
No, CLEERY.
Okay.
And then my mother's parents, William J. Rowley. Now they were English, and my are they proud of their ancestry. William J. Rowley. Jemison, I think was that name.
Mm-hmm.
And Hannah Blaine was the mother. And they called it Hannah. I looked in the Bible, and the Hannah in the Bible is Hannah. It's spelled Hannah, but it's H-A-N-N-A-H, but it's pronounced Hannah.
Oh.
And people, most people that have that name pronounce it Hannah. Hannah. I like that better. Now then, what next?
Before we go ahead, could I ask you, did you know all four of your grandparents? Do you remember them?
I knew Grandpa and Grandma Rowley real well, but I never knew Grandpa and Grandma Smith. They were gone before I was old enough to really remember, so I never remember them. And I probably had moved maybe away from them and didn't get to see them.
Could you tell me a little bit about your Grandpa and Grandpa Rowley? Some of your memories of William J. Rowley?
Well, there's not too much.
Now, he was the one that was in the Civil War, wasn't he?
He was in the Civil War, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also, I could be a DAR, Daughter of the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
He's a descendant of the DAR, whatever.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
Then he was a veteran of the Civil War. Grandpa Rowley.
What did he look like? Do you recall?
What was he like?
What did he look like?
Oh, I don't have any pictures of them, but he was the sweetest old man. He had pretty blue eyes, and he was so mild and always so good to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's about all I remember about him. Grandma was a little more strict. My mother looked like her mother. Grandpa Rowley and they had 11 children.
Did he play with you when you were little?
Yes,
with his grandchildren?
yes, and I visited them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd visit them, and Grandpa and I would always. I'm sorry to tell you, he was injured in the Civil War. Tent pole fell and cracked his skull. Well, he was mentally affected.
Mm-hmm.
And he died in the insane hospital in Jacksonville. But he was just as sane as you or I.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no one to take care of him. And they'll keep them there. At one time they had several hundred patients they would, I believe it was as many as 1,000, they would have released
Mm-hmm.
if there had been anyone to take care of them.
Oh.
But they are responsible for them. Grandpa was just as sane as he could be. I went over there. Now that brother of mine, he went off the beaten track. This is between you and me. Don't take anything about it because. But when he was 19 years old.
And now is this Chester?
That was Chester. Well, he was in, and he's paroled to me. I was responsible for him for years.
Oh, I see.
They're paroled to you. They were then. They were paroled, just like they are out of prison. And he was paroled to me, and he came and stayed with me quite a bit. And he went back home. Then he worked for a family, and they never knew that there was anything wrong with him at any time for years. Then he married. I think maybe he had to go back to Jacksonville. So while he was over there, he was in and out. And when he'd feel himself, it was a nervous situation, nervous condition. When he'd feel himself slipping, he'd go over to the hospital, over there and stay. He could go in and out,
And just,
yes, be treated for a little while and go out again. Well, he married, and we went over there. We were over there to and visited. Then his wife worked in the hospital, and he took her to work one morning. Went back home. When she got home, there he sat in his chair. He was gone. He had a heart attack, and just was gone. He was. That's about 12 years, I believe.
That would be about
I know
right.
your dad was still here in Quincy, and I know he didn't take us to but we did. He did take me over there once, and we saw Chester. Chet was such a nice guy. He was such a nice guy. Your father, he put me in the mind of him. Seemed to be so much like Chester, believe it or not. That is, in looks and in disposition and temperament. So, but he's been gone 12 years.
Well, back to your grandfather, you remember his blue eyes, and he was a nice...
You won't ever need to mention the mental...
No.
Won't ever need to mention that.
That's nothing to be ashamed of, though, Grandma. I don't believe that's anything to be...
I don't know why people are, but
It's...
you just are surprised sometimes that people act like they do about it. No, it's an illness.
Sure, it's like...
it's an illness. Can't help. No, Grandpa was...
But Grandpa had been injured in the Civil War?
He was injured. His skull was cracked by a tent pole.
And they were obviously able to repair that somehow?
Yes.
Did they put something,
Could
a plate
have had
in
a
it?
plate, yes. There could have been a plate. He's been gone so long. I just don't remember too much of anything like that. But he lived to be in the 90s. Well, Grandma died when she was 66. But Grandma had worked so hard, and of course Grandpa's condition brought on a kind of a heart trouble, and she just didn't live to be very old. She was 66. Now my parents, did you get their names?
Yeah.
George, yes. And my date of birth, of course, is here on this page. I was born December the 4th, 1898.
Now, Grandma, and you said that your grandparents on your father's side, you didn't
Well,
know.
Grandpa Smith was Quaker Dutch. He came from Pennsylvania, and had no relatives, as far as I know. And Grandma Smith was Irish, McClary.
Now, so that Samuel Smith was a Quaker Pennsylvania Dutch?
Yes. Yes.
So he might have even been of German background.
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes, the chances are.
And his wife, Elizabeth McCleary...
She was Irish.
Was she an Irish Catholic or?
No, she wasn't Catholic. No, they were Baptist, hard shell Baptist.
The old kind?
Oh, brother, you can't tell them anything.
So would that have been the Southern Baptists or the Northern Baptists?
Southern, I think so.
But you're Northern. You're the Northern Baptist,
I'm
right?
an American Baptist.
A
And
B
that was Northern.
ABC, is that what
Yes,
they call it?
ABC.
But these two were more the Southern Baptist.
Southern, yes. Well, there's quite a difference.
Are they more fire and brimstone?
Oh, brother. That brother of mine, the brother that was a minister for a time, was ordained. Was a local ordination.
Is that
And
Melvin?
That's Melvin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
That's Southern Baptist.
That's
And
Melvin.
then there's another Baptist. Let's see, what do they call them? Anyhow, they have no use for missionaries. They don't. They say, well, now I'd say they don't have any use. They do, for that matter. But they won't send missionaries anywhere. If missionaries are needed, they're there. They're there where they're needed. They're not sent. Primitive. And there's a primitive Baptist church in a town not very far from here. Primitive Baptist. And there was one or two that was in Quincy that I've known. Oh, they're strict. You can't tell them anything. and they don't support missions. Wherever missions are needed, they're there. They take care of themselves. Primitive Baptist.
Let's start with your brothers and sisters now. Could we list them out?
Sure.
Now you're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
Who came next?
Florence.
And Florence is still alive.
Yes.
Isn't she?
Yes.
And she lives in
she's
Hicksville.
17 months younger than me. Her birthday's in May. She lives in Huntsville, Missouri.
Huntsville.
Huntsville. That's not very far from Springfield, is it?
I'm not sure.
It's not very far from Columbia, because of the son teaches in that university. They're so clannish, they follow each other around. They stick together. So that's how they happen to move to Huntsville, because it isn't very far from Columbia, where this son teaches. And when he was in
her son.
Arizona,
Oh, the son who's the minister.
that's the second one.
What's her married name, by the way?
Walton, Walton.
Alrighty, and it's her second son.
Yes, that's a minister. He was ordained. Let's see, but that's the Christian church. That isn't. They're not Baptists. That's the Christian church. That fundamentalist old Christian church, not the disciples.
And they're kind of fundamentalist.
Now the disciples is the oldest group, and then the Christian, and then I think the Church of Christ. I think those are the three divisions of that particular group, and they're Christians. They're fundamentalists. Everything's wrong. They're the only ones that's right.
Is that how fundamentalists look at things in terms of?
Yes, fundamentalists. Yes. Yeah, they're the only ones that's right. Liberals, liberals and fundamentalists. They're the two groups. And they don't want anything to do with liberals. And the disciples are too liberal. So that's why that one has no use for the disciples. Well, I said he's wrong. I told my sister, I said, I think he's wrong about the disciples. Well, after that, he wouldn't talk to me about anything.
Oh.
Yeah, because he thought he was sure he was right. And he's that first.
What was Florence's husband's first name?
William.
William Walton.
William Walton.
Do you remember the names of her three children?
Yes. We have Robert. Robert's the oldest one. And William.
William Jr.
is the minister. William Jr.
Okay.
And let's see.
Then the nurse comes next.
And the girl. What is? Jean. Same as your mother.
And who comes next after Florence?
Kitty Elizabeth. And she's gone. She's been gone 7 years. And her name was Martin. Kitty Elizabeth Martin.
And did she have children?
Yes. Did I show you that I had some pictures here?
Oh, the
In
one
that
the
box,
one
I
taken
had two
at Pleasant
pictures.
Hill?
I had three pictures of her. She
Would
had
you
three
like to find that one?
in that shoebox.
Daryl and George.
Daryl and George. Daryl was a twin, but the other one died at birth.
Where did they live?
Martinsburg, in
Oh,
Pike County.
that's not too far from Nebo, is it?
It's between Pittsfield and Nebo. It's on the road. I taught school there, Martinsburg. It's a small wayside town. And that he died a year ago as a result of an accident. He was helping his father. His father had cancer, and he was taking him. It seemed he was in that
That's
care center
Daryl?
in Jacksonville.
This is Daryl?
And this is his father.
Mm-hmm.
And he was between Jacksonville and Martinsburg when his car went off in a ditch. And it was a bad injury. So he was taken to that care center in Springfield and died of a heart attack. He was young. He had a wife and several children. He was in the service. And then this is George. I saw him at Bill's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
George and Daryl.
Who comes next after Kitty?
Let's see. There's Kitty, then William.
That's Bill Jr.
3 girls, and then William.
Mm-hmm.
William Robert. William R. Smith.
Here comes Julie.
She coming in.
Hi, Julie.
There she is.
We're
And
doing
she got
some.
out and took a walk.
What?
Are you sure you're all right?
Yeah.
You know, people don't
cold.
walk much in Quincy. Things happen to them.
Well, did anything happen?
No.
Grandma, I can break a kneecap by kicking. I've broken a board 2 inches with my bare foot, 2 inches thick. If you can break a board, you can break a kneecap. So there's your answer. People are scared for their knees.
Okay. So William Jr. came next, and he never married.
He never married. Your dad said when he was a little guy, says, Grandma, why didn't Uncle Bill get married? I said, Grandma wouldn't let him.
Oh, uh-huh. Was there some truth in that?
No.
Oh.
I thought there was. Are you going to bed?
No, I'm going to come back down.
She's going to come back down.
You all right? Let's get those beds fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So I told her. Oh, she said I didn't have anything to do with that.
You mean you went and told your
None of the
mother?
boys married.
Mm-hmm.
Now there was, except Chester. Chester did marry that.
Mm-hmm.
He married an older woman
Mm-hmm.
first, and of course Chet was a kind of an outcast in a way because of his
Mm-hmm.
mental condition, I guess, as
Mhm.
much as anything, that happens. And he had a very happy life with that older woman, and then she died, and he wanted to be buried by her in a Jacksonville cemetery. So that is where he was buried. And he married a younger woman then, and I don't know what's become of her.
Mm-hmm.
She lives in Jacksonville. Now that was Chester.
Was he the next one after William?
He was after Bill, yes. Bill?
But he had no
and
children?
Chester. No children. Mm-mm.
That's 5. Now who came next?
Then we have Mildred. Mildred, I guess, was next. And her name is Rule. And Mildred has 2 sons and a daughter. I don't know if I know their names. Philip is the youngest one, the younger of the 2 boys. The older one, it'll come to me babies, I think. And let's see, the daughter Margie was the daughter. Margie Rule.
And Mildred's husband was named Oscar?
Oscar, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mildred. Then we have Lucy. Mildred and Lucy. No, we have Melvin. Mildred and Melvin. Melvin is the next one. Melvin's never married. And then we have Lucy.
Now Melvin became
An ordained Southern Baptist minister. That was the local ordination. You know, that happens. Because he's, I'm sure he hasn't, I think he's still faithful in attending church, but I don't think he does any preaching anymore.
Did he preach at a church?
Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
In Winchester. He had a church there for a while. And in Black Oak, several others, local churches, he used to preach, but that's been a long time ago. Let's see, that's Melvin, and Mildred, and Melvin.
Hey, Julie.
And Lucy must be the next one. Lucy. Now that makes, we had 5, 6, 7, didn't we? Gladys, Florence, Bale,
7.
Chester.
Lucy would make 8.
Lucy's 8.
Mm-hmm. Number 8. Including,
Lucy.
Now, she married, didn't she?
Yes, she married a Rule. And she just she married George Rule, Oscar Rule's son.
Oh.
Lucy, and she's a licensed practical nurse. And George Rule died. I was visiting in Chicago, and someone called and told me that he had a heart attack. Several years ago. Well, she's none of us ever remarried. We all.
Mm-hmm. Where is Lucy now?
In Alton. She lives in Alton. And she takes care of she's a practical nurse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Works in a hospital. She had a lot of her training in Barnes Hospital in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's a licensed practical nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, Lucy. Then we have, Lucy. And June.
Is June number 9? Who was the last one? That'll help.
Jane is the last one.
All right, so that leaves, after Lucy, then it's either got to be June or Clark.
Well, there's Clark. Now, where does Clark come in? Well, he's younger. He's younger than June.
So June...
Oh, wait. No, he's older than June. He's older than... That's right. Clark, then June, and Jane. That's all of them, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Clark also never got married?
No.
Uh-huh.
No.
And his mother stopped him too?
Something didn't. See, those guys just never seem now we're satisfied to just live at home.
And then June came along next? June came along next after Clark?
After Clark. June. And she married Rural Roberts. And she had 2 sons and 1 daughter. Both sons are married, but the daughter isn't. They're just hopping around having a good time. I think she's in California now. Jill, let's see, there was, what was the other sons? No, I can't think of their names. Jeff, right now, her son's names. One lives in Texas.
Where does June live?
June lives in Jerseyville.
Is that in Illinois?
Yes, not very far from Alton.
Alrighty, and then Jane was the baby of the family?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think they're just about 20 months apart.
Mm-hmm.
June and Jane.
And where does Jane live?
Jane lives in Alton. I had a nice letter from her just Christmas time. She had 2 children, a son and a daughter, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Do you know her married name?
Gravett, Gravett. And her husband died. We're all widows, 6 of us. We're all widows.
Now, how much older are you than Jane?
Florence, 1900.
1900.
Kitty, 1901. William, 1903. Chester, 1905. Mildred, 1908. Melvin, 1910. Lucy, 1912. And Clark, 1914. June, 1918. Jane, 1920. They're all pretty close together. Here's their birthdays.
Well, now, so you were 22 years old when Jane was born.
I was teaching school.
Mm-hmm. So that's a pretty big gap.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. But you stop and think, there's 11 kids in 22 years.
Mm-hmm. Pretty good pace.
When, I believe it was it Chester? My mother's sister was taking care of her, and my mother said, "By George, I'm not going to have any more. This is it."
Mm-hmm.
And Aunt Sally said, "Well, if you have any more, you'd better have them, by George." Grandpa's name was Dad's name. Then I have Jeans, Jeans,
Mm-hmm.
and I
What,
have
now,
Frank Sager.
Going
I
back,
have yours.
right. Now, going back to your family here, your brothers and sisters, would you say that who are the ones that you were maybe closest to? Were you closer to some than others?
Florence.
Maybe
Pretty close to Florence. Well, somehow, Jeff, it seemed like I know my mother. I know when I went to the Christian church, my mother was that hard-shell Baptist, and I had no use for the Christian church.
Mm-hmm.
And the Christian church was the only one there was in New Hartford. So when I became really interested in the church, she said, "Well, don't you try to get Florence interested."
Oh.
So it seemed like I was kind of off there by myself.
Oh.
And then Florence and Kitty were pretty close together. And of course the boys were, William
Mm-hmm.
and Chester were real close.
Mm-hmm.
And Mildred and Melvin, we always thought Melvin helps her so much now.
Still does,
They
yeah.
live close together,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still real close. And then Lucy, well, I think Lucy was more or less kind of independent.
Mm-hmm.
And Clark's more or less. And now I don't think June and Jane are really,
Mm-hmm.
inseparable. So I guess maybe we were just kind of off to ourselves in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Although we were all growing up together,
Mm-hmm. But sort of independent.
but sort of independent, I guess.
What was what was it like in your home when you were growing up?
We were a happy family, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
We were a happy family.
Mm-hmm.
We always had Christmas presents, and I tell you, where there's a big family, there's where the Christmas is really Christmas. Because we had lots of presents, and
Mm-hmm.
we played together.
Mm-hmm.
We never had much trouble. Went to school together, and we all had long hair, all down close to our waist.
Oh.
I'd have to get up. No, after supper, I'd have to get the comb and brush, and Florence's head was so tender she'd scream and yell and carry on. But I'd comb and braid her hair. Then we'd wear
Mm-hmm.
something on our heads
Mm-hmm.
so we wouldn't mess our hair. And in the morning, we wouldn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
We had to walk to school maybe a mile or 2 miles. And it's that when we lived in New Hartford, went to school at Summerhill, we walked 3 miles. 3 miles, morning and evening.
Mm-hmm.
So there was 6 miles. And Clark walked 6 miles to Nebo to school and was graduated from high school. And he walked 6 miles. It was 6 miles to that school.
Mm-hmm.
Now Nebo schools are out of existence. There's no school there at all. And there used to be 4 years of high school.
Would
Grades, all the grades,
Mhm.
4 years of high school. But it went out of existence just this past year. So kids are bused to Pleasant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
They still have their grades and high school.
Would you say you had to work pretty hard?
No, you bet we work pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What were
This
some
is
of
how hard I had to work one hot summer day. There was a plot of ground in the garden, and my mother wanted cleared. And it was hot and dry. And she said, if you clean up that plot of ground, you can go get groceries. So I worked, got that all done, and then walked 2 miles to the grocery store and back. And we used to have a little wagon. My father, I believe, put together a little wagon.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother would fill that with chickens, tie their legs so they couldn't get away. And we'd haul those to the grocery store, and grocerymen bought chickens. And then we spent the money for groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would pull that wagon. I'd pull that wagon nearly all the way till we got to Summerhill. Then Florence would get in the shafts and pull it to the grocery store. I wouldn't do that, but Florence would.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's what we had. We always lived a mile or 2 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And from school,
Mm-hmm.
always lived a mile or 2 miles from school.
Mm-hmm.
And always Sunday school the same. Lived in the country.
Was there time for any kind of recreation and fun, or was just an awful lot of hard work, or
just
you had games?
Oh yes, we played. Oh yes, we had time to play, and we had an attic in the old Poston house it's on the road between Summerhill and New Hartford, and the stovepipe went up through that attic, and it was warm enough that we had our playhouse up there, played up there in the winter time.
Was that mostly for the girls? Was that
we got along. We kids never had any trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And if we did, Mother spanked us, and we had to clear up pretty quick. Because Mother's pretty good with a stick.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were trying to get home from school once, and somebody, a couple of other girls, was tormenting us. And we knew we ought to be going home. All of a sudden, I looked at nervous Mother on a corner, watching. Well, when we got home, we got a switch used on us and plenty. And it wasn't really our fault. The others had tormented us and caused us to just legger on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And Mother had come to see what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and your little playhouse in the attic, was that for the girls mainly?
Well, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I don't remember if the boys cared to play with dolls and that sort of thing. We had our dolls and our little stove and just all kinds of toys to play with.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Christmas was really an enjoyable season.
Oh, what do you remember about Christmas?
The presents, Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, Mother told us there was no Santa Claus. And we were pretty disappointed because we went to bed early and we wouldn't have gotten up for anything. And Santa Claus was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, we had all that.
And how about the religious life in your home? Were you your family was Baptist because of your mother?
My mother wouldn't go to the Christian church, and of course that was the only church in the community. But my sister and I, well, maybe some of the others, I don't remember. We attended Sunday school and church services.
How about your father?
Well, he was a hard shell Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
That Black Oak Church is one of those old
Mm-hmm.
kind. They call them hard shell Baptists. And he would go to the Christian church when there would be a revival or some special service. But he never saw a Campbellite preacher that could keep him awake. But he'd go occasionally, but my mother would not go into that church. Never would. We lived a pretty good Christian life, though.
Did you have prayers in your home then with your parents, or
Have what?
did you have prayers at home with your parents at meal
Yes,
times?
and our Bibles and things like that. Yes, our good reading. We had a good bringing up. Even when it came to Sunday school and church. Of course, my mother thought we just had to be dressed up to go anywhere. And good clothes sometimes was hard to afford. We didn't always have what she thought we should have to wear. She shouldn't have felt that way. But then, in country churches, kids are criticized.